To the sound of the cicadas, my name is Adam Daniel Mezei, AdamDanielMezei.com. Thanks again for watching. You know, something I was thinking about over the last couple of days also was how people kind of get old before their time. They speak about themselves using old terminology, they behave kind of really old. Let's kind of back up a couple of steps. Something that I really miss about Europe is the whole flaneur thing, which is just like the flaneur, just like kind of hanging out in cafes, not all day long, just for like periods of the day or once a day or at the end of the work day, and just watching people and like observing the fashions and watching how people interact and kind of living in a city. It doesn't matter where in Europe, most European cities are like this, especially in the summertime. For those of you who don't know, I was living in the Czech Republic, in the capital city in Prague for 5 years, prior to my returning to Canada, where I'm born, by the way, and raised, in 2010. This time of the year in Prague is pretty much tourist season, but there are kind of nifty little pockets and corners in the Golden City where you can hang out, where you can just kind of do this really great local people watching. And Prague's such an entrepot city with so much turnover, with so many people coming from all over the world, different places, that you can find these great perches where you can just sit back, and it don't have to be elevated perches, and there's a lot of those too, but just people, like just kind of street level cafes where you can observe people going about their daily affairs. I used to love doing that. I got so much inspiration from doing that just by watching and seeing all the different people, and especially the young people that are in Prague that are walking on the great cobblestones, the high heels, the great shoes, the great skirts, the dresses. Of course, I'm talking about girls, you know, the couples, watching the dynamic, watching the energy, like energy on 2 feet or 4 feet, as the case may be, passing you by on the cobblestones as you sit, you know, down on your table, kind of perched, watching the streetscape. I thought that was just extraordinary. And unfortunately, you can't necessarily do that here. It does happen here in Toronto. I mean, we do have quite a vibrant downtown culture. It's a big city with a lot of people. We get a lot of tourists here as well. But it's just a different sort of a feeling. You know, you can't just kind of hang out in cafes and just kind of while away your time. I'm not saying wasting your time. There is a certain value to going away to come back. I believe very much in that statement. Sometimes you got to go away to come back, because if you don't go away, you can't really like let your mind unload. You literally, very much like cache memory or like a RAM chip, you have to kind of let your mind unload. I take in a colossal amount of information. I read probably too much for my own good. I do a lot of different things. I like to keep my fingers in a lot of different pies. Not only do I like to, but I have to. I like to be in the know for things. This is knowledge that my clients pay me for, that I share with them, and I think that's important. But I read a whole hell of a lot of information. And I was even doing the same thing when I was living in Prague. But what the cafe thing allowed me to do is just to back off and watch people. Just to back off and see what was going on in the city. I met a lot of people doing that. I had a lot of exciting encounters. I had a lot of like other sorts of encounters too. But one of the main things was that I was meeting people, I was present, I was there, I was dealing with human beings. There was no computer coming out during those particular situations at all. It was strictly myself. It was like an old Moleskine, a pad, or just a book, or nothing, and I just watched people, and it was great. And I'd let some of the things that I covered marinate in my mind over the course of the day. I let some of the things that I had encountered earlier on in the day just kind of like work their way in my brain cavity, and I found that that was really remunerative. Okay, so getting old before your time. I find a lot of people are just doing things that are like really not in keeping with their youth. They're not going out like on a Monday night because it's a so-called school night, because that's going to kind of take away from their, you know, work thrust. I don't get it. The thing that I love about European society is you'll still go to work the next day, but you don't have to get stinking blotto drunk on a Monday night. You can just kind of like have a couple of glasses of wine if that's your thing, or beer or whatever, and just chill or stay out late. You know, like what's the big deal? Get yourself into like a 5 or 6 hour work schedule, a sleep schedule, where all you have to do is basically sleep 6 hours to get refreshed and to feel regenerated. Keep like a steady workout schedule. Again, something else that people don't do. We live in a very seeded, S-E-A-T-E-D economy that's very sedentary. And people are gaining weight, they're taking in more than they put out. That's also another feature of getting old before your time. They're speaking in old language too. They're kind of like talking about their life in a really old way. They're looking to saddle themselves with, 20-year mortgages. They're looking, or even longer. They're looking to, they're just looking to do things that are not in keeping with all the power that youth entitles you to, all the verve and the excitement that youth affords you. And that's something, again, if I'm comparing apples to oranges, or maybe to some degree apples to apples, I'm just kind of putting the two cities together and going, big difference in the summer to how I lead my life in Toronto, big difference to how I used to lead my life in Prague. And everything has its pros and cons, its advantages and disadvantages, but that's definitely one of the differences that I see. People getting old before their time, and it's bizarre. It's like calm down, you'll get to it. Like I like to tell some of my colleagues, you'll get to it. You don't have to freak out about it. Don't have an anxiety attack. Saddling yourself with needless debts, buying shit that you don't need, not going places because it's going to put you into not a bankrupt situation. It's just going to prevent you from buying some expensive car. I don't get it. I really don't get it. I don't know. It never made sense to me. I've done everything I've wanted to do up to this age in my life. I've gone to a lot of different places in the world. I don't regret it in the least. I'll continue to do it should the situation permit me to, because it's basically a feature of my nature. And one thing I do is I keep fit, I keep active, I eat well, I watch what I put in, I like to look okay. Yeah, there's a metrosexual component to that, fine, I agree, people are going to lambaste me about that and rake me over to coals about that, that's fine. But just definitely don't get old before your dime. Don't be a ninny, don't go to sleep at a ridiculously early hour, because you're missing out on so many things in life. Life's just more than work, sorry. I mean, this is coming from the guy who works like a banshee. It's just more than work. I know how to kind of shut off when I need to. If you're sitting with somebody, just go for that. But without this kind of tapering off into other areas, don't get old before it's time. Just don't. And that's one of the things that the Europeans have preserved, and I think that that's one of the things that I'll always love about Europe, no matter what, no matter where I'll be in the world. And there's still a lot of places that I want to hit. Asia, you're probably going to be seeing a visit from me quite soon. Thanks again for watching. Great weekend to you, and I'll catch you when it's over. Use sunblock. Take care.